Hello and welcome to another episode of Innovate on Purpose podcast brought to you by the Mindful Innovator, where we help retail leaders find clarity so they can innovate with purpose. Today we have a very special guest. Her name is Shelly Bortolotto, and she is a full-time life coach who teaches her clients how to manage their brains so they can feel confident, worthy, and capable again. When you coach with her, you'll hear her lovely Aussie accent. But she now calls Canada home with her husband and daughter. She honed her coaching skills through certifying as a life coach school. And as you'll hear, she has an incredible ability to hold space for her clients as they transform their lives. That's a big statement right there, holding that space for you. And she welcomes conversation, so make sure that you reach out to her on her Facebook and hit her on the DMs. Shelly, welcome to the show.
Matt, thank you for inviting me on. It's a pleasure to be here and chatting about innovation and all things that happen inside our brain.
Oh, awesome. Yes. So today's episode is manage your brain to build your business. And really what it comes down to is how do you use your thoughts to stay in high value cycles? But Shelly, what the heck does that mean? What are high value cycles?
Yeah, so that's a really simple way of describing when you're in a high value cycle, you're innovating, you're thinking creatively, you've got that level of self-worth in your own body is high, and you're moving forward in your business. You're progressing. It's like the day you wake up and you get so much done, and you end your day and you're like, wow, I was so incredibly on it today. Like I'm just getting stuff done and it's all amazing work. So that's a high value cycle.
Okay, so it's like highly productive, getting things that are purposeful done.
Yeah, thinking at a really high level, not doubting yourself, not spinning in worry. Now, the flip side of that is a low value cycle. And a low value cycle is like, you know, when you get a no in business and you go into a bit of a shame and guilt spiral and you sort of doubt yourself and you have to go through that regret and disappointment and all the things. That is fine because we all have to go through emotions in our business, but it's when that sticks around for too long. So a low value cycle is when we're not producing, we're buffering, we're not working on our business, or the ideas just aren't coming.
Yeah.
And I will shout out right now, this idea of high and low value cycles wasn't my invention. It was invented by the amazing, incredible sales coach of Stacey Bayman, and she's my sales coach. And the way she describes it is, of course, much more simple and easy to understand than mine, but you got the idea. High value, low value cycles. We're either always in one or the other.
No, that makes total sense. And yeah, I definitely would like to be in the high value cycle constantly, for sure. I mean, it's like when you are like coaching somebody, like how often is somebody usually in a high value cycle versus a low value cycle, knowing that you're going to have the ebb and flow?
Yeah, well, the short answer is at the start of the call, they're likely in a low value cycle. And by the end of the call, they're in a high value cycle.
Okay, well, that's definitely good.
That's super helpful. But on average, it depends on what's happening inside their brain. So if we're really coaching in our early sessions on self-worth and capacity to believe that it's okay for you to be this amazing person that you are, then they're going to be in low value cycles more often than not, just because it's the thoughts we have about ourselves that determine how we're feeling.
Yeah.
And what we do in coaching is we learn, it isn't really if you're in high or low, although we want to have more of our time in high value cycles because it gets us to, revenue in our business and creating that impact faster. But it's about learning how to make that shift. Yeah. It's about
so how do you make that shift? Yeah. Because it's first, it's being aware of, I guess, the cycle that you're in, and then shifting over. Yeah. So, like, what are some of the things that you teach to get people aware of what cycle they're in and how to transition?
So it's like when you can't read the label inside the bottle. You have to stand outside of your own brain and ask yourself, what am I thinking right now? Or you might start a little lower down and ask, what am I feeling right now? Some people can identify their thoughts much easier. Some people can really hone in on their feelings straight away. Some people don't know how to name a feeling. That's okay. We teach them. And some people we might just say, what are you doing right now? Oh, I'm sitting on the couch watching Netflix. Okay, so which cycle do you think you're in? Most people, that's probably a lower value cycle. And
unless you're
just
watching a good
creating that
documentary.
awareness. Or that's your job, right? Your job is to watch.
Well, there
your
you
job
go.
is to watch sports. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I have so many good documentaries I watch.
There you go. That's how I justify it.
Yeah, so it's that awareness of, oh, hey, what am I doing right now in my business?
Mm-hmm.
And kind of just to back it up a little bit, the way I coach is that the way the brain works is that things happen in our world, so outside circumstances, and we have a thought in relation to that circumstance. And that thought might be, oh, I wish they hadn't said no, or it might be, oh my gosh, they love my work, or oh, I got an engagement, I got a like, or somebody's commented on my post. Mm-hmm. And whatever thought it is, that creates a feeling in our body.
Yep. And then additional thoughts, and then kind of gets our mind going off on a tangent, right?
It can, but in order to really create that awareness, we want to keep it really simple. So one thought creates one feeling, and from that one feeling, we do lots of actions. So that thought might be, they've just said yes, I've got a new client. The thought is, for some people, it might be happy, joyful, excited, accomplished. So they do a bunch of actions from that place.
Okay. Wow.
And the actions they do from that place creates the result. So from the thought, I've just signed a new client, the result will be, I keep going in my business to sign more clients.
Mm-hmm. Now, on the flip side of that, Shelly said no. She doesn't want to be a client. I should have said this, or I regret that. So
there's
that
all
would
those
be the
thoughts.
other side of it.
So you actually named your feeling, regret. I should have said this. It'll either be disappointment, shame, guilt, regret. Probably one of those ones. Maybe frustration or annoyance. And then let's say it was regret. What do you do from regret? You beat yourself up. You remember all the other things you didn't do well. You do less work for the day. You don't reach out to that other client that might say yes, because now you're thinking, oh, they might say no. And the result is, I don't create any more yeses.
Yeah, so now how does somebody get out of that?
Yeah, so that's a good question.
How do you get out of that cycle?
Because we've all done it. We've all had those days where we have an early disappointment in our day, and then it kind of throws off the rest of our entrepreneurial journey for the next few hours. How do we get out of that cycle? We want to be really, really honest with ourselves. We want to actually find out, well, what am I thinking? And we want to understand that it wasn't them that said no that has us feeling this way. It was our thought. So now I'm in regret. I should have said this instead. Now she said no. Now I don't have a new client. How we get out of it is we notice what's happening in ourselves. First of all, that awareness piece. Oh, I'm feeling regret because I'm thinking. Because I'm feeling regret, I'm doing X, Y, Z. So we want to paint that full picture. It's like creating this little video clip of this is my life. And sometimes just that video clip, like watching the movie, the little movie montage, you'd be like, oh, wait. This little movie montage is going to create me doing less for the rest of the day. And you're going to be like, I don't want to watch that movie. That's not the movie I want to watch today. I want to watch this movie, which is where I create more stuff for my people and my clients.
Yeah, I could see that kind of shifting when you're able to recognize the fact that this is not a place where you want to be and keep on going. You can then kind of change that track, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of what we do naturally in our body if we recognize it. The other part is sometimes it doesn't work. And when it doesn't work, it's because that feeling of regret is really big.
Okay, so how do we, if it's really big regret, what should I do, Shelly?
Well, let's find out how big it is. Remember the thought you gave me I should have said this.
Yes.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 is not very true and 10 is completely true. How true does that statement feel?
Oh, I love that. Yeah, so you have to think about, okay, is there...
Gut number. What was that gut number?
Yeah, that was probably a 4.
Okay. So if it's a 4, you're probably going to be able to watch that movie montage. It might take you a little bit of time, but you'll be like, oh, okay, I can just keep going with my business.
Mm-hmm. All right, what if it was a 10? Like, what if I'm at a 10 on this?
Yeah, what if you're at a 10? It's going to feel gut-wrenching. It's going to feel heartbreaking, and it's going to feel like a really uncomfortable emotion in your body. Regret at a 10 sucks. I had that a couple of weeks ago, and I had to move through it. And that's how we do it. We actually have to let it into our body, and we have to be in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because when we're in it, we can let it process through our body and move it out.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Because if you just kind of avoid it, then it's just going to stay there. Where if you kind of move through the regret, you'll get through the regret a lot faster. Like, it's almost like a storm, where if you have a storm, a lot of animals will run away from it. But a buffalo actually goes through the storm. And the whole reason why is because they want to get through the storm faster rather than being chased by the storm, being chased by the regret. So push through.
Yeah, that's a really, really fascinating metaphor. Like, you don't want to be the animal that runs, because running in this case looks like buffering and pushing it down, and it stays around longer. You're running longer. Literally, you're running from your emotions. You want to be that buffalo that walks through the storm.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. It's safe to feel emotions. Now, I'm not going to say it's safe to walk through an actual storm, but it is safe to feel an emotion in your body. When it's happening, it might look like a whole bunch of, for me, and I'm actually feeling one, I scrunch up my face. And sometimes I wobble my lips. And it looks really funny. If you're watching this on video, make sure you come and watch it on video. So when you're actually deliberately feeling an emotion in order to walk through it, I highly recommend a very private place without anyone else in the room or around, because you might want to make noises and scrunch up your face and go, "Rrr." And letting your body do all those physical movements is just part of moving it through, and breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth, as if you're pushing the emotion out.
That is a great tip. Yes, absolutely.
You can sit there and give the emotion a color and a shape. And maybe, like, when you breathe it in, breathe out, you're imagining that you're pushing out this yellow smoke of regret, because when you push it out, it never comes back. And Matt, there's something that people often ask me, or they don't ask me, but you can see it in the back of their head. There's a concern about feeling an emotion. What if you get stuck in that emotion? And I like to give the analogy of a piece of a pie. Like, let's say it's Thanksgiving or Christmas, and you've got this giant single big pie for the family. Most people don't sit down and eat an entire pie in one sitting, right? Not like the big family size ones. But your body will eat or process the level of emotion that it can handle at that time. And it might not be the whole pie. It might just be the crumbs off the edge. Like that regret at a 10, that might, and it feels like it's going to impact your whole life or your next 6 months. You're just going to let your body feel a little bit of that. You're just going to pick off the crumbs, or maybe like cut a little sliver out of the middle. But when you do that, it makes it easier to have the rest. It's like once you've cut the first piece of pie, it's easy for someone else to come along and have like, oh, I'll have a bit more, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So like how you eat the elephant, one bite at a time. Just you got to process a little at a time just to get it through. But you got to start. We have to start somewhere.
When you start, it makes it easier to do the rest. Yeah, but you
absolutely.
never get stuck in it. But the idea is that you might be in this processing of emotion session, and it might take 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That 10 minutes might get you a sliver, or it might get you, oh, I've done about half of it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you've done enough of it to get out of that, to kind of just bring the emotion down enough that your awareness can put you into a new thought, that's when you go back into those high value cycles.
Absolutely. I love it. So I'm really curious, Shelly, like, how did you get started in this? Like, how did you learn about this craft and develop a business?
Well, we've been talking about high and low value cycles. I will say it was a probably 2-year low value cycle,
A big pie,
which is commonly referred to as undiagnosed postpartum anxiety.
Mm.
In those first 2 years after my daughter was born, she's an amazing kid, love her to death, love her dearly, but I wasn't doing well. My chemicals in my body had gone all out of whack. So it took about a year and a half of me getting counseling, thinking I'm just not a good enough mum. So this was that worthiness piece. I'm just not good enough. Until I sort of came out of that and got some treatment and medication, and the doctors helped me. And I became, quote unquote, recovered from postpartum anxiety. I could do daily activities without it being incredibly difficult. I could get up, I could pack lunch, I could get her to school, I could get to work, I could come home, shower, get to bed, eat some dinner. But even then, when I was quote unquote recovered, it felt like my brain had now gotten into this pattern of hating on itself. So there was still this low value cycle going on where I'd wake up and be like, oh, how am I terrible today? And it wasn't even the thoughts I was in, it was the daily questions that I was in the habit of asking myself. What didn't I do today? What should I have done? So one of the things go on. Yeah.
No, please.
One of the things that keep us in low value or high value cycles is the questions we ask ourselves. High value cycles is like, what amazing things have I done today? How can I help a client today? How can I show up and give value? Low value cycle questions that keep you in that value is, what else should I have said? What didn't I do? How haven't I achieved today? Basically any version of how am I terrible?
Yeah. So you're shifting from the pessimistic to the optimistic, the negative to the positive, where it's just about thinking about it, reframing it. And I absolutely love that reframe. And it's really important for us to think about, what kind of questions are we asking ourselves? That might just be a good exercise alone. Just what would the last couple of questions, you, audience member, have asked yourself today? And are you in a low value cycle question or a high value cycle? I'm really curious.
Yeah. And it sounds so simple just to be like, just ask a different question. But it's so hard to move your emotions around if you're trying to push them down.
Yeah. So it sounds like you were your first client then.
Very much so. I worked with myself for a number of years. Excellent retention rate there.
Look at that.
I did. I discovered coaching right around the time I started to build my first business, realizing that my thoughts about myself and my desire to buffer and shove down all those emotions wasn't getting me very far in my business. There were a lot of days where I hid behind the computer instead of getting out and talking to people.
Yeah. So your first business then, well, I'm guessing it wasn't to coach people on this process just yet. What was it? A different model of coaching?
Yeah. So right around the time the postpartum anxiety was getting treated, I was restructured from my job in purchasing. So I started a supply chain consulting business, knowing that I could really help businesses with their purchasing process because I knew every piece inside and out. And I just didn't know how to go out and sell and how to own the impact that, hey, I can do this for you and I can make a difference. Because, and I want to shift now into that next thing before we started, Matt and I had a chat and I said, I've got so much stuff to pack into one episode. You're not going to be able to pick just one thing to tell your audience about. The next thing I want to share is we've been talking about how our beliefs and our thoughts keep us in high value and low value cycles.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 3 specific things that we have thoughts and beliefs about as an entrepreneur and as an innovator. Do you want to hear them?
Sure, of course I do. I'm like waiting, like a bated breath here.
Suspense. Dun, dun, dun.
Stay tuned for the next episode.
The first one is thoughts about ourselves and our worthiness and our capacity to be successful. So thoughts about you. The second one is thoughts about our product, service, tool, process, whatever it is we help do for our clients. So maybe you're a coach or you're an innovator or you're a consultant, product or service.
Mm-hmm.
The third one, which most people don't notice, is thoughts about our audience and clients and potential clients. Specifically, that they're out there, that they want what we have, that we can find them, and they're willing to pay for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's almost like a Venn diagram. You need to think about the thoughts of all 3 and bring them together. I do talk about that a lot with innovation, where we do need to think about not only, what our goals are as an innovator. Like, we want to create change within the organization. We want to create change for our customer, make more sales, whatever it is. Cool. But how does that, relate to the products that you're trying to innovate with? How does that relate to your consumer? And making sure that you're thinking about all parties, because you're not going to have success if you don't think about the full picture. So that's really interesting. So, like, how do those 3 work together, like, to cohesively innovate and create change?
Yeah, so you've got this idea of a Venn diagram. Now I want you to make it 3D and turn it into like a triangle table, but like a really big table. I always think like a Greek or Roman, there's this weird triangle ceiling or roof, and it's got 3 giant pillars. Each pillar is a different part of our you, products or services, and thoughts about clients. So when one of them starts to crumble or get weak, it puts more pressure on the other 2. So the next one starts to crumble and get weak, because we don't notice that we're just not feeling very worthy. So we think that our product or service is the problem. So then we decrease our belief in our product or service. And because we've decreased our belief in our product or service, we're not out there telling people about it. So then we're not seeing responses from potential clients. So then that belief gets weak and the whole thing starts to crumble and shift.
Wow.
And when I talk about our belief, we can actually just put a number to it. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you believe in your product or service? It can be 1 is not very much, and again, 10 is plenty. How much do you believe in your ability to find and connect with potential clients, and that they want what you have? On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you believe that it's okay for you to be successful?
Mm-hmm.
And that is a huge thing that I coach people on, like that initial piece of, am I good enough? Like, other people can have success, but can I be successful? That's actually quite easy to pull apart, because if you've been really successful in your corporate world, you might translate that into business. Or sometimes it flips. Sometimes you're like, I can only be successful if somebody else is paying me. I'm not allowed to be successful on my own.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're coming out of another entrepreneur business and you're shifting industries, that one's probably pretty high, and it will stay pretty high until one of the others starts to put pressure on it. So when we look at them by pillars and we treat them just as one thing at a time, it's easy. We can be like, oh, wait, I'm just doubting myself. My product and service is totally fine. I don't need to worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
I just need to work on this piece of, oh, I'm not good enough, that came up for whatever reason.
That's interesting. So, like, if you look at all 3 of those and put numbers to them, then you're able to target, what's the best, like, coaching program for a person, or the best kind of, I guess, direction that you could take them, right? So if it's about yourself and you grade yourself a 3, but your product's a 10 and your clients are a 10, Okay, you got some inner work that you need to do, versus whether
Yeah.
it might be focused more on product or maybe you're the right customer. Would that be
I
an
love
accurate
how you've
assessment?
simplified it, Matt. You've just exactly seen what I'm describing is, yeah, you just get your 3 scores.
Well,
You
yeah.
let them be separate things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is the one that's lower right now. You want to work on it and you want to see how that's impacting the other two.
That's amazing. So, like, if I were in an organization and I was running an innovation team, and I was working on a product, like, is this something that someone can do tomorrow and go into their office and grade out all three? Like, how would they go about a grading system, and then how can they use this system to work on those areas?
It's as simple as giving themselves 3 scores.
Yeah. So you're just going
Yeah,
to
like the
subjectively
back of a
throw it
sticky
out, whatever
note,
you
basically.
feel.
Gut feeling. You want to go with gut. You want to get both numbers. So your gut will give you a gut number, and then usually you'll try to justify it with a second number. Now, if your gut gives you a 7, and then you're like, wait, it's actually really an 8, that means you're going up. That's pretty awesome. But
Mm-hmm.
if your gut gives you a 4, and you're like, no, I think it's actually a 3 or a 2, it's going to be definitely something that it might be uncomfortable to look at those thoughts about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing to know is if you're like a 5 or a 6, you're literally sitting on the fence. Can I believe in my tools? Can I not believe in my tools? Well, logically, it is really uncomfortable to sit on a fence. It is painful inside the brain to be at a
Mm-hmm.
5 because you're like, your brain can't decide. It's like, should I go this way or that way? And you spend a
Yeah.
lot of energy inside your head just spinning if you're at a 5.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah, so you're almost like indifferent with yourself at a 5, to where if you scored yourself out of 2, you're better off because now, okay, you realize that you are not confident in yourself there. You probably stink, and you need to work on that area. So at least you know that you need to work within that space versus just kind of sitting there indifferently.
Yeah, and I can't necessarily speak to how to improve your products or services, but that part about you,
Mm-hmm.
I can share something that really shifted for me when I got up and I really owned this.
Please tell
Was
me, how did it shift for
I,
you?
yeah, so I kept thinking, oh, I need to get to this place in order to think that I'm successful. Like, successful was like dependent on me achieving these certain goals. Oh, when I
Mm-hmm.
get to here, I can have the feeling of successful. And eventually I realized, like, thanks to my coach, I had to shift that around and be like, well, I can have the feeling of successful in my body now because we're allowed to feel whatever we want to feel.
Mm-hmm.
And successful is a feeling, not an end goal. It can be both, but it's more powerful to build your business if you think of it as a feeling and you let yourself feel successful. So I had to come up with a thought about what thought can I think to generate this feeling in my body. I already have a successful business.
Absolutely, it's like manifesting it in a way, right? Where you kind of connect to that feeling before you officially have it, but you almost believe in it to your core that you have it already.
And it wasn't that I didn't have the results, it was that I hadn't let myself put this feeling as in the little list of feelings I'm allowed to feel right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, of course, when I think I already have a successful business and I let myself feel successful, that puts me in a really massively high value cycle. And
Mm-hmm.
I go out and do a ton of stuff to tell more people I'm a coach and talk about what the impact of coaching is and share these kinds of ideas with people. And the result is, quite simply, I create more success.
That's amazing.
So
Yeah, so it connects to
it's
that
both
feeling.
manifesting and actionizing it to actually
Mm-hmm.
create it, to take control of it.
Yeah. And prior to that, you were saying like where it was measuring or looking at a goal that you want to get to, and not allowing yourself to feel the feeling until you got to that goal.
Yeah, one of the
Yeah.
questions we always ask ourselves in my community is, what do you think you'll feel when you get there?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that feeling is, that's the feeling you need to feel now in order to get there.
Yeah. That makes total sense. And I mean, you really, if you set the goal, I hope that you believe that you can make it to that goal. And if you can make it to that goal, then you should feel a success rate, because you know it's a matter of time until you get there. So yeah, so definitely bask in that joy and the feeling of being successful, because you totally are.
Yeah, I have lots. We'll have to set up another episode because I have specific thoughts about what our thoughts about goals are.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, definitely. We could definitely talk about goals in general, especially with innovation, because we have lots of innovation goals. So we definitely need some help with goal setting. But that sounds amazing, Shelly. Well, Shelly, I want to just give you an opportunity here to, I mean, the audience is yours right now. Like, what words of like last advice you want to give to the audience, and how can they reach you after this episode?
The advice I can give more than anything else is really two things, and it will come across in all the times you talk with me, is you are 100% worthy right now. You don't need to do anything or prove anything to anybody. You get to just believe you're worthy. And it's safe to let yourself feel emotions. And if what you're doing, what I'm talking about, is really resonating with you, and you want to learn more about this kind of stuff and what's happening up in your head, jump on my mailing list. You can join on my website, because this is what I do, is I talk about this stuff all the time, and it starts to sink in, and you just really start to get it. And
Awesome.
if something I said is completely like on the point, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I have to speak to Shelly right now about this thing because I've just scored my 3 numbers and I know I need to work on this one, then, like Matt said at the start, reach out in the DMs on Facebook, send me a message, book a consult. I offer a free consult to look at coaching with me. And it's incredible, because we look at whatever is happening in your life, why it's happening, and you get that real aha moment of like, oh my gosh, I know exactly why I'm here, and we have an exact plan to go to the next step.
Amazing, Shelly. Thank you so much. I feel like for every innovator, evaluating your business with this model is a perfect way to do it. I love the 3 scores. I think it's going to help a lot of people. In fact, I plan on doing that right after this episode. I'm going to be scoring myself out, so I'll let you know where I stand and where I need help at.
Yes, just DM me and I will be like, oh, okay, so we're going to work on this one. You're going to watch out that these 2 don't fall over because of it.
Yes.
And we'll go from there.
Perfect, Shelly.
Any last questions you have for me?
No, Shelly, I just really appreciate your time today, and excited to get this episode out there for everyone to see. And thank you so much for joining us on Innovate on Purpose.
It's always a pleasure, Matt. I will talk to you soon.
Thank you, Shelly. Awesome, Shelly. That was great.